What's up everybody and welcome back to the channel. I've spent a huge amount of hours playing this game, some would say too many, and it occurred to me recently that I've never actually made a tier list of all of the Descendants and exactly what I think of each and every one of them and where I rate them in terms of how usable, fun, and just effective they can be. So that's what we're going to do today in this video. We're going to go through each one of the Descendants, discuss a little bit about them. I've spent at least 20 to 25 hours with each one of these Descendants, some of them way more time than that. So I would say that my general understanding of each and every Descendant and their kit is to a point where I feel that I am educated enough in the Descendant to make my own mind up whether I like the Descendant or not, or whether they're a good Descendant, a strong Descendant that's worth your time to unlock. Now, it's possible that you might disagree with me and you might not rate the Descendants the same way, but that's okay. You're just wrong.
It's only a game. Why you have to be mad?
But before we jump in, let's go ahead and just talk about my rating system, because it's not necessarily just like strongest to weakest, but rather I would say, as usual, there's a little bit of nuance to everything. So the top category, and I'm going green to red and not red to green like tier lists usually do. I don't know, it's a fucking OCD thing, I'm sorry. But at the top, Swiss Army knife for me is a Descendant that is reasonably good at every kind of thing that the game can throw at you, whether it is mobbing or just clearing content super fast or killing bosses, and in general is very fun to play. I think that is a very important topic or a factor to also consider. Some Descendants are better than others, are stronger than others, but are really boring to play. Gley. But the point being that Swiss Army knife for me means the whole package, so it's literally everything together. And you can't really find any fault with the Descendant, or if you can, the fault is very minuscule. Then almost great is obviously then just underneath the Swiss Army knife tier, so reasonably good at some of the things, but has a hole in their kit somewhere that possibly needs to be either addressed by their ultimate Descendant coming out if it hasn't already, or maybe there's some kind of thing about the Descendant itself that just isn't really quite there just yet. God potential is the mid category, and that basically means that the Descendant is possibly good at one thing and could be like a one-trick pony, but needs some, let's say, TLC, some work from either the developer side or from weapons or something like that. Basically, you have to do a lot to make the Descendant work for you, but then when you do that, the Descendant tends to be relatively strong. And then gimmicky is exactly that. It generally for me is a category that it's a Descendant that has a specific toolkit, that has a kit that is just done better by other Descendants, or requires an insane amount of, you know, like, let's say, work, if I can put it that way, to basically get a result that you can much easier get with another Descendant, and possibly even more fun while doing it. So that's basically gimmicky. And then last but not least, this is the worst category, but not worth researching, is a category that's obviously there, that basically is not worth you going out and finding all the different pieces, then essentially researching the Descendant, because either the Descendant is not fun to play, or is fundamentally broken right now, or basically is just inferior in every single way to any of the other Descendants, and you're far better off just spending time developing those Descendants. Now, at this point in time where I draw a line in the sand and I talk about these Descendants now, it's not to say that this list can't change. For instance, it's quite often gonna probably be the case that as soon as a ultimate version of a Descendant comes out, then it can oftentimes probably go up in tiers and become better, because the ultimate Descendants with their Transcendent mods sometimes address something that is a hole or that is a problem in a specific Descendant. So this list isn't final. Let's say when we get to 2,000 hours and a couple of more Descendants down the line, we'll fucking come back and check it out again. But without any further ado, let's kick this off. This list is alphabetical, so of course that means that we are starting with Ajax. Ajax is by design kind of like the tank character, the tank Descendant, the idea being that Ajax becomes like a bastion in the middle of the battlefield for the other Descendants to rally around, and so therefore a lot of Ajax's toolkit is centered around like protection and basically covering your allies, but also, you know, like sort of juicing them up and making them be able to deal more damage, or at the very least just able to take more damage. Now, that's not to say that you can't build Ajax offensively, and Ajax has a very fun build that you can build that's basically like fucking Super Mario or Frogger Jax, if you want to call it that, where you essentially like jump around and basically just explode everything. it's a lot of fun. Now, we already have the ultimate version of Ajax, so we've pretty much seen the development of this Descendant, I think, as much as we're going to see. Of course, the developer can still turn some knobs and stuff like that in the background, and change things up and possibly bring out more Transcendent mods for the Descendant. But at the moment right now, I think the Ajax that we have is the Ajax that we're going to have for a while. And in my opinion, Ajax is almost great. I think Ajax is definitely better than having potential. I think Ajax has a reasonably decent path to build him that's not too difficult, and basically the idea is either you just stack a fuckload of defense with shield, or you just stack a fuckload of defense and HP. Either one of those two is okay. The bottom line is that you basically become unkillable, and since you're unkillable, it means that you can keep your teammates up. You might not be dealing as much damage and everything like that, but you basically can keep everybody alive, and therefore you can kind of like persevere through, let's say, some of the more tougher void intercept bosses. Now that I'm talking about it, I'm actually also, and I might change my mind a little bit, because I'm starting to think now, as I go through the other Descendants, I might actually circle back on some of the decisions I made. So I might have to put a fucking caveat in here and say that my decisions here are not final, and I might actually reshuffle a little bit, because now in the way that I was just talking about Ajax, it kind of sounds like I'm describing a god potential. That's kind of like what it seems like, because Ajax is not exceptionally good at dealing damage. It basically comes down to the gun that you have, so it's not so much about him as a Descendant. And yes, while he is a decent support character, the point is that that's all you're doing, is you're basically just helping the other characters survive some damage, and they still have to kind of like do all of the work or something like that. This is tough. Okay, for now I'm gonna leave him at almost great, and it's because I really like the idea of Ajax, and you're gonna hear me say that a lot. I think in my mind, I think I'm gonna use that sort of tone of phrase to describe quite a few of the Descendants, because a lot of the times, like, I really like the idea of what they expect you to do with the Descendant. It's just that sometimes it just doesn't go that way with the players or something like that. In any case, I don't want to spend too many minutes on each Descendant, because we got like 16 of these motherfuckers to go through. So yeah, okay, cool. Ajax. Next, we have Blair. So Blair is basically, he is one of the fire Descendants. So we have another two in Lepic and Esiemo. And Blair's whole thing is essentially he makes these fucking zones of fire on the ground. He can shoot a really big fireball. He can basically tech into like 100% crit rate, which is really cool as well. But I don't know, for some reason, like, Blair just doesn't click for me. I like here we go. I like the idea. I like the idea of Blair. I generally, and it's something that certain Descendants, their ability to deny access to an area, or basically to just completely nuke an area, is a lot of fun for me. I like the I like the idea of, like, my god, I'm gonna have to blur myself out whenever I say that, but I like the idea of it, because the thing is, you can basically say, okay, cool, this part of the battlefield, I got this, I'm gonna lock this down, anything that comes in here is gonna die and everything. And Blair certainly got a lot of that going for him. I just feel like he doesn't do anything really well, though. Like, yes, you can build him, and yes, he can chunk some damage and everything like that, and you can put the fire down, and when shit runs through it, they die and everything like that. But I just feel like, I mean, honestly, like, Lepic just does it better. Like, Lepic just blows shit up with fire better. So that's unfortunate, because that then means that, Blair doesn't get all that love. He's also, like, representation wise, I don't see a lot of him. And he's definitely in my top 5 least played Descendants for sure. I have spent a bit of time with him, and I mean, normal. And of course, we don't have ultimate Blair yet, so we don't know what he can become. But for now, I would definitely say Blair is really gimmicky. He's, for me, like, he's just not really there. And I feel like there's other Descendants that do, that do better what he does, just straight out the gate. Next, we got Bunny. Super controversial. I'm gonna keep this one hella short. But Bunny is controversial in the sake of that it's probably the Descendant that's gotten the most flack from either people saying that she's OP and she needs to be banned, or needs to be toned down, or needs to be fucking nerfed, or and it's everything about it, right? People will be like irritated by her voice lines, irritated by the fact that she always gets all the kills, irritated by the fact that they can't get their abilities off, irritated by the fact that she runs ahead and locks up the fucking boss room, yada yada yada. I find that I would say that 99%, of the people that have an issue with Bunny is just because of the fact that she's that efficient. I personally feel that she's at the very least top 3 in the game, because a person that plays, and I mean, I've seen Bunny at all tiers in the game. So I've seen people that play Bunny fucking terribly and that die from the first bullet that hit them. And then I've seen bunnies that do, Deathstalker and absolutely just fucking annihilate the boss, shoot all the ads down, shoot all the skulls as soon as they come out, everything like that, that actually just control the fucking arena. And I've run with bunnies in 400% infiltrations that dominate in sterile lands, Kuiper mines, like all that. So I personally, whenever I see a bunny in the group, I'm like, fuck yeah, we're gonna do this quicker. I have probably got the most hours on, I think it's a tie between Bunny and Sharen for most hours that I have on a single Descendant in this game. And I don't regret a second of it. Bunny is still the Descendant that I use for most of the things that I do solo. When I just farm some shit, or when I want to go do something, 400% infiltrations. It's between her and Freyna, or if I'm doing like the season 1 mechanic and I'm just farming gold, all of that. So I think Bunny is. She's not as fast a boss killer as some of the other ones that are, available, but it's simply the fact that she's able to do it, I think, makes her a Swiss Army knife. I think the fact that you can, any kind of like content that needs to be done fast or needs to be killed quickly or needs to move from A to Z quite quickly, whatever. She's just really, really, really good. We have her ultimate version already as well, and that gave us arguably one of the, I would say, strongest fucking Transcendent mods in the game, which is high voltage. So yeah, I think Bunny is Swiss Army knife. I think I might lose half of the people watching the video now already. That's gonna be like, fuck Bunny, bro. But I mean, it is what it is. You can hate on Bunny as much as you want, but you can't argue with the fact of how efficient she is as a Descendant, and that's just simply that. Now with the fact that we can build no crit Bunny, she's more powerful than she's ever been, and her power level is on the scale of some of the more powerful Descendants in the game. So I just think and the more they bring out fucking more Transcendent mods and more mods and stuff like that you can scale deeper into skill damage and stuff like that, her power is just gonna keep growing. So yeah, really, really, really strong Descendant. Then we have Gley. Now, funny story, Gley was the first Descendant that I, in all the betas, I always played Gley. So I have a long storied history with this Descendant, and it was also the first Descendant that I started diving into more difficult content when the full release of the game came out. Gley was the Descendant that I used to do almost all of the normal content, and then when I started dipping into hard and doing those void intercept bosses, Gley was the Descendant that I used up until, I would say, probably Pyro, and then I switched over. Then I started running Bunny, and then after that I started running Lepic. But anyway, so the issue that I have with Gley is the following. I think Gley is as a boss killer is insanely good, and I do know that you can also build her to mob. I've seen some insane, I haven't built it myself, but I've seen some insane Gley fucking 400 infiltrations, which looks cool and I like it and everything like that. But I definitely think that she leans more towards the fucking boss killing variant, and that she's not really made for mobbing. Yes, you can do it, but there's other characters that mob far better than she does. That combined with the fact that I would say only like 1 out of 5 people, if it's even that many, but 1 out of 5, possibly 1 out of 10 Gleys that I see out in the wilds in void intercept fights and things like that actually know what they're doing. I think it's one of the Descendants that I see most people play that they don't know what they're doing. They're dying all the time. They mismanage their resources. They don't build it right. They don't have the right mods on and all that stuff. And I don't really know why it is, because even just by reading her abilities and stuff like that, she does not have a easy to understand toolkit in a way, right? It's a little bit different, right? She doesn't have shields, she only stacks HP. Her abilities, like, don't work like the other ones. A lot of them are like abilities that you switch on, and then you kind of like have to manage your ammo count, and then you got to choose when is the right time to give yourself infinite ammo. Her choice of weapons absolutely fucking matter to just make her damage better. So the point that I'm trying to make here is that she is like, she's got an insane amount of potential, but it's up to the person that's playing her to harness that potential, and that I don't see a lot. It could be entirely different for you as someone, and you might have like an entire fucking group of friends that play the shit out of Gley and know exactly what they're doing, but that simply has not been the case for me, and for that reason I just gotta put her in God potential. I'm sorry, but it is what it is. Next up we got Enzo. Now it's I think it comes as no surprise anybody that's, you know, a fan of the channel. And next up we got Enzo. So it comes as no surprise, I think a lot of people know the love that I have for this Descendant. It's also unfortunately one of those Descendants that you kind of like forced to get at some point if you don't want to really struggle with the planetary materials that you get out of the caches. You can of course loot those caches without Enzo, but it is infinitely easier and you get higher yields as well. And at the very beginning, when you're just starting out, the amount of Kuiper that you get additionally by just opening those caches with Enzo instead of not opening with them is in a way, I would say, almost like game changing, because that can really help you out, especially, you know, at the beginning when gold isn't really the problem for you, but Kuiper really is, as when you're starting to develop your mods and things like that. So Enzo is one of those Descendants that it's really in your best interest to craft him sooner than later. Unfortunately, he's also the Descendant that you will have the hardest time getting his Transcendent mods for. We don't even have the ultimate version of Enzo yet, so we don't know what those fucking mods are going to be like to get. I doubt they'll do the same thing as they have for Enzo right now, but you know, who knows. But the point is that it's a hell of a lot of RNG to get his Transcendent mods, and you also can't combine onto them, so you might get lucky. I have a buddy who literally the second cache he ever opened up gave him supply enhancers, so obviously fucking, you know, lucky bastard. But then I also know some other people who have 800 hours in the game and still don't have supply firearm enhancers, so fucking rough stuff. That being said, once you have that, Enzo is a phenomenal support character. He himself is able to deal a massive amount of damage paired with the right weapon, of course, but the fact that you can give a lot of that same fucking burst of firepower and damage to your entire team is what puts him up above the rest. Now, Enzo, his mobbing is nothing to speak of. His mobbing is terrible, and basically it revolves around you shooting everything with a gun, which if you're into that, it could be cool, but if you have to mow down 400 enemies with a fucking LMG, which you have to reload every 185 bullets, it gets annoying super fast. So for that reason, it pains me, but I gotta put Enzo in almost great. He is not a Swiss Army knife. He is very important for the resource gathering portion of the game that he is responsible for, and his buffing is off the chain. It might be, I think it's a tie between him and another Descendant for the best in slot when it comes to like buffing your allies, buffing your team, but his mobbing leaves a lot to be desired for, and I assume that when his ultimate Descendant eventually rolls in, that is something that they'd most likely look at to obviously improve or something like that. Then next we have Sharen, and I gotta say, Sharen is fast becoming one of my favorite Descendants. She's definitely top 5, inching her way towards top 3 for sure. But I think that the thing with, again, Sharen, it has a unique part of the gameplay loop which only she can do. So she's of course the hacker of outposts. You can do outposts normally, but you can get different patterns from outposts that you wouldn't be able to get unless you hack them, and she's the only Descendant that can hack outposts. It's possible that down the line the developer might release other Descendants that can also do this, but at the moment right now she's all we got. And if you kit her out correct, this is an entire side loop to the game that you can do to get patterns with plans for research for weapons, research for Descendants, everything like that. That means that you never have to set foot into a void intercept boss, and it's almost like, to me it feels like you have like the raid way in which you can play the game, where you team up with other people and you go fight void intercept bosses, and you get chances at getting drops from that because you go do dungeons beforehand and you take the patterns and you go there. Where she is like, I'm playing the game solo, I'm fucking going and getting those patterns, I'm taking those patterns to the reactor bosses, I'm killing the reactor bosses, I'm changing my patterns in, and I see what I get. And you basically have pretty much almost all of the stuff that you need to get in the game, you can get this way. You don't actually have to go to Void Intercept bosses, except for, I mean, maybe some of the Transcendent mods and things like that. And even those, there are sometimes other places that you can get them. I really like Sharen. She's phenomenal as a buffing character as well in a team, because of the fact that she can essentially debuff the enemies so bad. She can reduce their defenses by a huge amount. And you can then combine it with certain weapons like Nazastras to just enhance that even more. She can go invisible, which means that you can basically have some real outplay potential where you can avoid damage and things like that. And you can also build into a pretty fucking sick sniper. So she's not on the par of like someone like Hailey, for example, but she's still pretty damn good. And up until, I would say, Pyro and stuff like that, you can still, you know, 5, 6, 7 shot fucking kill those Void Intercept bosses as a solo. And that's probably only just going to get even better when her ultimate drops, which coincidentally seems to be the next ultimate that we're going to get. If the story of Freyna is anything to go by, it seems that, and I mean, you guys heard it here fucking first. No, I'm joking. You probably heard it before. But Sharon's probably going to be the next ultimate we get, and that's probably going to be like, I think, season 2, I suppose. But yeah, mobbing is not phenomenal. Of course, you can build her into her 4th ability, and that's got okay-ish mobbing, but it requires a lot of cooldown management and things like that. She has high crit rates, so you can also build into that. But I would pretty much say you play her as a buff character. She's really good in a team of 4, where it's like her and an Enzo and then like 2 damage dealers, and it's just, you know, off to the races. So yeah, I would say that unfortunately, this is the thing. I mean, she's definitely, I think she's got more than potential, because she's got a whole outpost fucking game down pat, and then she's got the buffing thing and everything like that. And just because I love her so much, she goes into almost great. I think if they release the ultimate version of hers, and the ultimate version has a way for her to mob, like in a way that she can just work her way through a fucking bunch of fucking low level enemies like super fast, then she's gonna be god tier. So yeah. Okay, then next we have Esiemo. Now Esiemo is again one of these characters that I really want to like. I like the idea of it. He's got the little shoulder fucking limpet mine launcher. You drop the mines everywhere, and then you can blow them up, and you can put a whole bunch of mines in one area and then make a one big boom, or you can spread them out over area and like nuke a whole bunch of stuff down. And on paper, great idea. I like it. Originally, when at launch, this character was clunky as hell. So there was a lot of the animations. His 4th ability took like forever to fucking prime. So in the time that you were like sumo stancing down to like charge, you were getting shot and killed before like you could even fire off the ability. And his shoulder cannon was just like a long animation of popping up and then shooting, and then you couldn't do it while you know you were swinging or moving and all that stuff. So the developer's gone a long way to address a lot of this stuff. So he's a lot more responsive now, if I can put it, if that's even the best way to describe it. But you can pretty much shoot the shoulder cannon now from doing anything, like fucking running, jumping, swinging, shooting, whatever. You can activate the bombs and blow them up. His power, the power level of the bombs has also been adjusted, so they're a lot more now. I mean, I think with him and Kyle, you have 2 descendants who you don't see a lot. It's also because they're some of the more expensive ones to buy, and also some of the more difficult ones to get the parts for. And most people tend to go for the meta stuff, and because the meta is not situated around them at the moment, there's also not a lot of like flashy fucking videos on YouTube and shit. I mean, yes, there are some hilarious ones of guys who have 200, 300, 400 hours on Esiemo just fucking nuking shit, but for every one of those there's like 500 Gleys like cutting shit up with a gun or something like that. So it's just a numbers game. I definitely think that Esiemo is worth researching, but I think Esiemo is worth researching so that you can check him out, so that when Ultimate Esiemo comes out, he's probably going to be dope as shit, I'm assuming. It's personally not a Descendant that I play a lot. Again, he forms part of that group of 5 least played fucking Descendants. I think I have less than 20 hours on him. But I got very frustrated with him because I played him right at launch. I unlocked him super fast after launch, and I thought like this was gonna be my guy that I wanted to. He was gonna be like the you know, the surprise hit and stuff like that. And yeah, the clunkiness of the character just really pissed me off and kind of like put me off him. And then I tried him just now again, like a week ago. It was really fun and fast and zippy, and it felt very snappy with the ability. So you might get a look again. But I do feel like, I mean, he's somewhere between got potential and gimmicky. But then, I mean, to stack him next to someone like Gley, for the reasons that I put Gley in got potential, I don't think it's a case of like that people don't know how to play Esiemo. I just don't think people play Esiemo. And then when they do, they maybe won't know how to play him, because he's, again, like, you kind of like have to build him. I wouldn't say in a specific way. I mean, it's fucking skill power, right? But the point is that, you know, like you have to understand the timing of his abilities and things like that. I think that matters a lot. So that being said, I mean, yeah, he's gonna be, I mean, dude, if I'm putting Blair into gimmicky, then shit, I don't know. I think Esiemo's got potential, man. I think he's got potential. He's not quite as bad. He's not quite, but I mean, he's almost gimmicky, dude. He's like if I could do fucking this, if I could put him like straddling these two, then I would probably do that. But I'm gonna just go ahead and throw him into god potential, because yes, he could do some funky shit where you just absolutely just put like 5 mines down, roll another 2 out, and then the boss spawns, and then you know, so it's kind of cute. Okay, then we have Valby next. Now, Valby might be, honest to God, one of the strongest descendants that nobody plays. It's the weirdest thing for me. Every single time that I have a Valby with me in a Deathstalker run, or in a Gluttony run, or in a difficult piece of content in the game, we absolutely fucking slay. I think that predominantly most of the Valby players that I run into really know how to play Valby, and it shows. And I think she's really strong as a descendant. She is a Swiss Army knife, because she has fantastic fucking boss damage, all right? Plus of her utility that she has on Gluttony is also phenomenal, and her mobbing is amazing. It really is. And she has a very specific style that you can also like farm certain outposts, the Valby method, which makes it very lucrative to use her in certain cases when you are trying to farm a lot of reactors or character XP or weapon XP. Of course, now with things like 400% dungeons and stuff like that, those are better avenues for XP, but that was not the case a month ago. So that being said, I think she has a strong kit all around. She has great transcendent mods that basically turn her builds into several different ways. And paired with decent weapons, I think Valby is just super strong. So I gotta put her up there. We have her ultimate version as well, and that is of course what we saw around about the time that the Gluttony boss dropped out. Again, it's not I've spent many hours playing Valby. I have a fully built out ultimate Valby that has, you know, all of the presets for mobbing, as well as doing void intercept bosses and Gluttony and, you know, all that shit. I just don't play her that much because I play other descendants. But every single time I get matched up with a Valby, I'm walking away happy from that experience, because she just absolutely does well. So whether that's a compliment to the people that end up choosing Valby as their main and how they play, or just her being a strong descendant, I'll leave that up to the fates to decide. But I think that's a good pair, and I think it's, you know, really great. Next we got Kyle. So Kyle got me my first Gluttony kill. So I was still struggling on Gluttony when the Kyle bug was discovered, and I saw it firsthand as I was in a game. I was like, why the fuck are there suddenly 3 Kyles in this game with me? What is going on? Is Kyle like a Chad now? Like, what's happening? And then they just completely nuked the boss, and I was like, holy shit, what is this? So I decided not to build him. I believe it fell over a weekend that I think it was like the people started doing this shit on like the Thursday or something like that. And I was like, dude, do I build the guy and just absolutely go ham this weekend and just eat out? Or is this going to be patched so fast that it's going to, you know, it's either you're not going to make it in terms of timing until you basically get him kitted out, or, you know, it's going to be a problem. So I recall that I ended up not building him, obviously, but any Gluttony fight that you joined had at least like 2 in. There were a bunch of cars that couldn't do it, that were trying very hard, so those were very frustrating because we still couldn't kill Gluttony and everything like that. But I think that weekend, like a lot of people that had no business and being in gluttony fights. We're in gluttony fights, getting kills, and just getting the transcendent mods and all that stuff. And it is what it is. He of course got patched a few days later, and kind of like has been under the radar the whole time. Now I think Kyle has an underground following. People that play Kyle love Kyle. They feel like Kyle is the superior Ajax, and Kyle with the fucking carpet bomb shit and everything like that is not a gimmick. That shit actually slaps. And he's also benefited from the fact that we can now build strong 0 crit descendants because of the mods that we got with the October 10th patch. So that's likely to continue on as we get more mods that sort of lean into that playstyle that doesn't require you to like hyper focus into crit. And of course we don't have the ultimate version of Kyle yet. So he is, he's on the cusp of becoming great, I suppose, or something like that. But again, for the same reasons that I think I find fault, if you can call it that, with Esiemo, I find the same problem with Kyle. And that's because, yes, there's not a lot of representation, and because I think a lot of people play him wrong. I don't know if I can put it that way. But for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and put him right next to his buddy over there. I think by the time Ultimate Kyle rolls out, he's probably, that just has like a terrible ring to Ultimate Kyle. Ultimate Kyle rolls out, it's going to be probably nutty, but for now, it is what it is. And then we have this turd, Jayber. Okay, so Jayber is, on paper, one of the descendants that I was the most excited about. And the reason for it is this. Sorry, my nose is itching. The reason for it is this. I like the idea of having turrets and fucking building my little turret thing, playing tower defense with the enemies, and just farming like that. It's one of the reasons why I like Kingsguard Lance as much as I do. And so I saw Jayber and I was like, holy shit, this guy can summon turrets, and you have a transcendent mods that he can have more than one turret, and you could juice these turrets up and everything like that. And then in the end, it just, my god, it's he's been buffed at least once. I think it's possibly twice they've revised him, and he is just terrible. He literally, the whole thing that is supposed to make him cool, which is the turrets, is the most irritating part about the Descendant, because the turrets don't stick around for long enough, they don't deal nearly enough damage. The maintenance of them and powering them up and then recasting them and all of that is just, there has to be a better way for them to do that. I think from the ground up they need to redesign the way that he deploys the turrets and how that shit works and everything. I think they need to give him flat 2 turrets off the rip, and then have the Transcendent mod give him a 3rd one. I think he needs a lot of work. I definitely don't think Jayber is worth researching right now. I wouldn't want, if you have limited resources, limited time, you have to pick, and you want to have like your 8 team of descendants, your 2, 3, 4 descendants that you're going to kit up and that you're going to use for all kinds of different content. Jayber has no business in being on any of those lists. You can leave him out completely, or fucking leave him till he's the 16th descendant to build or something like that, and you will not lose out on a single thing. All right, then we have Freyna. Freyna most recently got her ultimate on the 10th of October. Freyna was already god tier in mobbing because of contagion, and she is now just, her power level is through the roof right now. That coupled with the fact that she is super fun to play, it is hella, like from a power fantasy perspective, she hits every single, like bell. She is super powerful. Her kit is responsive and fun and easy to build into and easy to understand, and super satisfying to watch how shit just gets poisoned and dies in waves and all that stuff. The damage is really good. It's a really fucking great looking model that they use for the character. I mean, it's just like, it ticks every box. It really does. So absolutely worth crafting the ultimate version of her. Because of the fact that you get this really, really powerful gun version of hers as well, which absolutely just annihilates like the first 4 to 5 void intercept bosses that you get, and then you can still build her into a way where you trade off some of your damage for just much more snappier cooldown, so that you can use her 4th ability more regularly, and then she can also be usable in those later void intercept bosses where she also just deals like, a massive amount of damage. So I really, really like her. to be fair, she was already, for me, like already rated very high even before her ultimate, and her ultimate was just like the icing on the cake. So super strong Descendant. Someone, if somebody was to ask me right now if she's worth, you know, building, absolutely. She is, for me, fast becoming as usable for fast farming content as Bunny is. In fact, she's probably there already. So super great. Okay, we're in the last 5 now of the list, and we've got Lepic over here. So Lepic, funnily enough, is the Descendant that I had the most success with. Once I built my boss killer Lepic, I was just fucking plowing my way through Void Intercept bosses, and until you kind of like hit that brick wall where you don't one cycle bosses anymore, or even for that matter 2 cycle them. And then the thing is, you step into a 4-man or something like that, or some of the later Void Intercept bosses, and the damage just falls off super bad. That coupled with the fact that to really juice him out and to get the maximum like bang for your buck, you almost kind of have to build him glass cannon. And I know there's people that are going to say like, nah bro, my fucking Lepic is the shit and he's hella tough and everything like that. But the point is, if you put that Lepic next to a glass cannon Lepic, the fucking kill speed difference is like a Ferrari and a fucking, you know, VW bug. The point is that he is almost like a one-trick pony in that way, where, I mean, his mobbing is okay. You can build him with a gravity grenade, or, you know, the suck zone, and then you grenade shit, and he's got the buff that, you know, allows him to empower his guns and everything like that. So he's not completely shit at mobbing, but he's absolutely a boss killer. That's kind of like, you know, what he does, and he does that shit well. The first couple of Void Intercept bosses just get fucking wrecked by even like a subpar build, you know, Lepic. If you build him with all the right, you know, stuff, he absolutely just dumpsters like these bosses. And if and he's one of the Descendants that if you have more of them in a group, it gets nutty. Like there's a ton of clips online, don't take my word for it, but you can look where guys go like 4 fucking Lepics against everything, and it just melts. If you put a good gun on him, like you're running around with a Lepic with a backup Enduring Legacy or something like that, he can still gunfight like a fucking boss as well. But yeah, like I said, the point is, if you really want to squeeze all of that juice out of him, then you kind of like build him a little bit glass cannony, and he has a super bad rep for that. Because he was one of the first Descendants that had, like, let's call it internet fame, in the way of like people were posting these clips of getting like 6-7 second kills on some of the very tough Void Intercept bosses, especially ones which were like showstoppers for people. Tons of people were stuck on Pyro for like fucking weeks, and he was just like bursting right through Pyro like fucking hot knife through butter. So that meant that a lot of people built him. A lot of people built him glass cannon, and so then those people go through to the later fights, and the minute the fight starts, they're on the ground, and so he gets this bad rep, but like people don't know how to play him, or they play him shitty, or they play him, you know, glass. So he's like a victim of his own success in that way. But I think the thing is, it pains me to call him gimmicky, right? He's not gimmicky. Like Lepic fucking absolutely slaps. The only issue is there's a glass ceiling there, right? And then other Descendants just pass him by because they're able to deal similar-ish damage while not being nearly as flimsy. We have his ultimate version already, so I think we've seen, you know, pretty much as we can see from him. It's a testament to how strong Lepic was that basically they released a boss which was directly meant to counter his bullshit. And that's of course Gluttony. So Gluttony was directly meant to just make all the Lepics stop the shit, stop the fucking drama. So yeah, but he's I mean, yeah, if he had great mobbing, he would be, but I mean, he'd have to have great mobbing, because his mobbing is not nearly on the level of something like Bunny, Valby, or Freyna. I was gonna say if he had great mobbing, he could be like a Swiss Army knife, but there's no fucking shot. There's no way. He'd be almost great then. So then he's got potential, bro. He's got potential. I mean, he's really good up until a point, and then you just gotta go get something else to do the job. All right, Viessa, man, Viessa is a lot of fun, dude. I like, out of all of the transcendents, out of all of the descendants, fourth abilities, hers, the big fucking, you know, ice storm is one of the coolest ones. I really like it. She is one of the characters that I had the most fun maxing out, and I regularly, up until the point where we had the 400 dungeons and all of that, I still used her a lot for leveling weapons, because she's really good at that. Like, she's got some areas in the game that you can play with hers where you can do like the void shard canceling, and you can just level, you know, weapons like super fast with her. I suspect with the changes that they're gonna make to the special operations, she's probably gonna see a little bit more action. We have her ultimate version as well already, so there's not many more surprises waiting for us with Viessa. Viessa is kind of like Viessa is right now. But that being said, I really like her. She's definitely got potential. She's got insane mobbing. She's got decent bossing. The issue with hers is that when you build her fourth ability, because that's where most of her damage comes from, right? It's stationary, and a lot of the more difficult void intercept bosses are highly mobile and they move around a lot. So you have to wait for your moment when that boss is immobilized to hit them with that ability, which you can often fuck up, and then you don't get your time to shine in terms of DPS. Or you have to build the radius of it so big that you actually end up losing some of the damage, right? So it's like a little bit of a tough situation. But when she bangs, she bangs. When she deals damage, she deals a lot of damage. So she's definitely got potential. I might actually even just, I mean, I feel she has more legs than Lepic, because her mobbing's fucking off the chain. Yeah, her mobbing is the tits. So yeah, she's definitely almost great. Fuck yeah, I mean, that makes complete sense. If I'm putting Ajax into almost great, then I feel like Viessa's got to go in there as well. Okay, then we got Yujin. Yujin is the descendant that I've played the least. I have less than 15 hours on Yujin, maybe 12, maybe 13 hours on Yujin. He was the last descendant that I unlocked, literally the last, except for Ultimate Freyna. And so he's kind of like a heal bot. All of his abilities are different kinds of heals, so you kind of like pick which one you want to sort of like focus into. Do you want a heal that heals everybody for a little, or you want a heal that heals one dude for a lot? And he revives a lot quicker, and he of course also has a transcendent mod that you can basically turn him into like a plague carrier, and then he can actually do some semi-decent mobbing and damage as well. We don't have his ultimate yet. I get the feeling that when we get his ultimate, it might reach similar-ish levels in terms of like mobbing to something that we see with Freyna. They might go in that route where he becomes just really good at like mass damage to, you know, big areas, big AoEs, things like that. But at the moment right now, Yujin is seeing some, I would say, some not resurgence really, because resurgence would mean that he's coming back from something. I mean, just like Yujin is seeing some love at the moment right now, because we are starting to see obviously void intercept bosses now that you can't just one cycle and just fucking burn down in the first 12 seconds and shit like that you could do. And some of these void intercept bosses you have to actually mechanically attack now and figure out the fight and everything like that, especially if you're playing with randoms. And he's a very safe choice when it comes to randoms, a lot like someone like Ajax or Enzo, because you are not just bringing your own power to the fight, but you're also helping your teammates who might not be good at surviving, might not be good at, you know, fucking keeping themselves alive and that sort of thing. You can help them out with that. So Yujin is certainly good for that. I think he's got a lot of potential. I think his mobbing is poopies, and I think probably if you play him solo, I don't know how you don't fucking get really bored. I mean, I was like, dude, like it just did not click for me. But I mean, if you know you like that, then you know that's all good, baby. But I think I mean, he's got potential. We have to see what happens to him when we see things like his ultimate and so on roll in. When God knows when that's gonna be. Probably 2 or 3 seasons from now, maybe more, probably more, because they're releasing the ultimates out now in the order that the Descendants came out, and he is the the fucking last one out of the first batch of Descendants. So out of the first group that came out as the game launched, he was the newest one, meaning that he's the one that's going to get his ultimate the last out of that original batch, which means there's a whole bunch of Descendants like Esiemo, Kyle, all of them need to get their ultimates first. And that's if the developer sticks to the way that they said that it was going to work. But anyway, I need to round this up. Like, I'm actually starting to lose my voice. But Yujin is really good at healing, everything like that. I think a good Yujin in the team is invaluable. He's not that great on Deathstalker in my opinion, because a lot of people are playing Deathstalker by using Overwhelming Shield. And if you use Overwhelming Shield, then he kind of like doesn't really help you all that much. But in situations where you are fighting bosses where you have HP pools, he can be really good because he can really top up the team and everything like that. And then him coupled with like having like a good weapon as well, he's just, you know, a fucking laser beam as well. So good shit. Hailey is a supremely good boss killer and can dish out some really good damage all the way up until the very, you know, newest Void Intercept bosses that we've seen. She is not difficult to play at all, and her kit is relatively straightforward. I mean, the only thing you have to memorize is, you know, which buttons to press in which order, which in itself is not that difficult. She just, with the October 10th patch, also got her Transcendant mods. They're not that great, so kind of like the Hailey that we have now without those Transcendants is kind of like the Hailey already. We don't have her ultimate yet. I don't know which direction they would take her with her ultimate, to turn her just even into more of a fucking sniper, just turn her into a bullet. But as she stands right now, I have a lot of fun with this character. Pulling off those snipes is super satisfying. You can 2-tap fucking pyro. It's sexy as hell. And yeah, she's cool. Her mobbing is not that great, even with at least in my experience with the new and I mean, I'll be the first one to admit I need to spend more time testing it, but I kind of rushed to try and get her new Transcendent mods to test them. I was not impressed with the sniping one, and I kind of like, again, I feel like her mobbing one Transcendent mod is okay, but like it's a lot of work that you have to do, where another Descendant is just like one button and then just poison and kill everything. So yeah, be that as it may, I think she is really strong though in her primary role, which is killing Void Intercept bosses, and you cannot discount the fact of how much damage she can bring to a fight. And she's just like Lepic, one of those situations that multiples of her can allow for some really fast boss killing if you're actually able to get those shots off, you hit the weak points, and so on and so forth. So I would say that she is probably, I would say, almost great. No, we gotta go with no, she's not almost great, because her mobbing is poopies. So yeah, she's got potential. She's right there with her buddy Lepic. I would say if I could do this, if I could put her straddling those two lines, I would, but at the moment right now she's more on this side than she's there, so it is what it is. And then last but not least, we got Luna. Video done. No, all jokes aside, Luna she has a very unique mechanic. She's almost like one of these rhythm-based fucking dance games. She is a support character in the same vein as Yujin in a way, with the difference that she also obviously has ways of increasing your damage, whether that be skill damage or whether it is firepower, weapon-based damage. And she also has a way that she can turn herself into a mobbing machine, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that she has the biggest radius of all mobbers. I think in terms of like around her, I think Freyna has a bigger radius pushing out in front of her, but Luna as a kill zone around her, I believe that she has. I think it might be almost on par with Bunny, or might even rival it. But that being said, she's difficult to play, and in my opinion not satisfying. The rhythm mechanic is weird and clunky, because while it is a rhythm mechanic, you aren't actually rhythmically doing it. I mean, if you've played it, you'll know what I mean, and if you haven't played it, you'll be like, bro, what the fuck. But either which way, I don't find her satisfying to play. And I think that this is the case for a lot of players, because as strong as her toolkit might be, you see almost no representation. And people are far more likely to play an Enzo or an Ajax or a Sharen or any of those other, a Yujin, any of those characters than they are to play Luna. So in the same way that I get what they were trying to do with her, she comes off as really gimmicky because of this weird way that you have to play her, and also because it's like a lot of work that you have to do to accomplish what she does, where other Descendants do virtually almost the same thing by pressing 2 buttons with their fucking fingers. So, you know, she might be one of those situations where if they rework the toolkit a little bit, we also don't have her ultimate yet, so if they rework it a little bit, make it a little bit more fun, make it a little bit stronger, make it a little bit easier, maybe she'll see more representation, and then, you know, maybe she'll also just slap cheeks a little bit more. And that's it for the video. Thank you so much for watching. This was a super long one. I was originally thinking something like cool to be like 2.5 minutes per Descendant, and then I opened my big fat fucking mouth and started talking. But obviously it's a game that I'm super passionate about. I like all of the Descendants. I don't think I was too hard necessarily on any of the Descendants. Let me know in the comments how your list rates up to mine. Where do you think I criminally misjudged a Descendant or rated them too high or too low? Love to hear your opinions on this. And of course, you can expect me to do something similar for all of the ultimate weapons. That will be coming, I guess, a couple of days from now. It's a few more options that we have to go through. But yeah, until then, it's absolutely super important to me that you have a fantastic morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. Until next video, fucking cheers.